Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and this one's kind of really a big one. And why is it a big one? Because it hits on so many different aspects of what we talk about. And when I say what we talk about, I mean intelligence services, disinformation, the war on terror, covert spying, different algorithmic software that's out there and being used, deception, and the reality of NOCs, or non-official cover CIA agents, ones that are not diplomats, okay? It's a super interesting story. However, we have to all take it with a big grain of salt. Why? It's admitted disinformation in parts. And, the argument will be made, well, it has to be disinformation, Jason, because if it's not disinformation, then we're putting people at risk. That means that some of the information that I may present to you could be purposely false. And this woman is now claiming to be a former, let me repeat that, former intelligence agent. But when you think about that, are you ever really a former intelligent agent or asset once you've worked with others, once you have that knowledge, once you've reached a certain classification level? Are you ever really able to get out of that circle? And I want to point your attention to this story, which we're going to come back to and read, okay? Because this is big. Ex-CIA spy readies to publish book without undercover exploits, without agency approval, and apparently Amaryllis Fox has this thing already up for pre-order. I don't know who's read the thing, and there's 6 ratings. Maybe it is the press. They are saying that there are some copies out there. You can read, where is it? Some of the reviews right down here. But I went and looked her up. I wanted to see what else she was presenting out there. So before we get into the article, let's talk about her today. Okay, today she has had some very interesting things to say. For instance, I watched her TEDx Teen Talk. Now, she claims that essentially when she was 18 years old and she was at this crossroads when she was trying to pick what kind of a career she wanted to go into, she went to, I believe it was, where was it, Thailand? Yeah, I believe it was Thailand. I think Bangkok. Again, watch it. I watched that yesterday. But I can tell you her story where she says that she was all the way back at the airport with her group that she'd been to, and she'd been doing humanitarian work, and she decides to stay. She then gets involved in journalism, where she wants to show the plight of some of the Burmese people. And that's where she kind of gets this skill set, I would say, that's, how do you say this? Attractive to intelligence agencies. According to her, and again, we have to take everything with a grain of salt because this is an official, non-official CIA agent, right? This is a knock talking. We don't know how much disinformation they're putting out after the fact. And I'm going to get to this Katie Couric interview where she's pushing essentially her new business, which is also in the technology field, which is something intelligence loves, which is something she uses while she works for the CIA. So she talks about how she finds somebody who she can get into Burma with a passport because it was going to be difficult. So she poses as this person's husband. They get down there. They sneak an interview. They smuggle out the majority of the tapes. She is arrested. Somehow she's let go and claims that she's not really recruited by intelligence until she creates an algorithm that can predict where terrorist events will happen. Okay? And you can watch that in A Spy Rebuilds Life After War. All right? So that's, again, all taken with a grain of salt. But I think that she would be attractive not only because of the algorithm she built, but how she was being able to be deceptive, get past authorities, and gain access to certain things, right? We know that those that work for the Central Intelligence Agency or FBI without formal training or the National Security Agency, they often are any of these offset private groups now. Booz Allen Hamilton, et cetera, Straffer. They do so because they get caught eventually. But then the intelligence agencies will be like, oh my goodness, look how many times they did not get caught. And we can kind of work with this if they got caught here. why don't we use their talents, and especially in the technology field, the hacking field, right? So this woman did have some other interesting things to say. The things that I will agree with that I saw in these videos is that she said, number one, she described how she saw people being tortured, things she could not unsee. She wouldn't talk about a lot of things, but one of the things she did say is she saw people being tortured like that a butcher would take to an animal, that kind of callous, that kind of death. And that's got to be gruesome. I don't know how you do that. You can't unsee that. And the other interesting thing she says is that nobody thinks there's the bad guy. Damn straight they don't. And she talks about how, in the Middle East, especially at this point, they might not be so keen on U.S. military drones in the sky that can rain death. Okay? So in my opinion, this woman does have some worthwhile things to say, and there's definitely some interesting things here. Now, before we get into the NBC article, which kind of briefly talks about this, the headline here is really what caught my attention. Ex-CIA spy who married RFK's grandson may have broken the law after writing book about going undercover as an art dealer to infiltrate illicit nuclear arms trades. Now, the focus here for me was the art dealer thing. Okay, why? Because intelligence agencies, number one, love to infiltrate high society. That's where a lot of the money is. That's where a lot of these black operations are. And when you look at, for instance, the case of Epstein, and I'm not trying to tie Epstein to this, but intelligence networks, right? They work around high society. They work around art, fashion, music, entertainment, where there's all this money and there's this desire to social climb. Okay, so that's really something to keep in mind about the whole thing. And then this woman marries into the Kennedy family. Those are the type of circles that you're in. So let's read some of this, because I mean a lot of it. It's so big because I've been talking recently, and we're on the run up to 9/11, and I believe I'm going to be having Gage on tomorrow at 11 a.m. I'm pretty excited about that. We're going to be going over the new World Trade Center 7 paper. It looks like Sam Tripoli and the Tinfoil Hat podcast are trying to get me and Mick West together finally for a debate, which I'm very interested in doing. But I've been talking about the Pakistani ISI connection and how they helped fund the hijackers to the tune of $100,000, and how the head of that Pakistani ISI, General Mahmoud Ahmed, was in D.C. the morning of 9/11, and he was meeting with people like Porter Goss, and Bob Graham at the same time, I believe. Condoleezza Rice ends up being on the list that week. And then Joseph Biden, after the fact, the front runner for the Democratic presidential nomination, at least the establishment front runner, right? Former vice president at this point, but he's been an establishment guy for 30 plus years. People just didn't realize it. Now, in this, she talks about her operations in Pakistan and how they were hand in hand. Now, again, you have somebody that funded the hijackers through their intelligence network, and then there are allies in the war on terror. That should tell you deception alone. But that's not what this is about. This is about this young lady. So let's read this, because it's really interesting. I got to tell you, I may be reading the book when it comes out, but we're taking everything with a grain of salt. Just because she says she's an former intelligence officer doesn't mean she is. And again, I don't know how you get out of that network fully anyway. A former CIA officer who says she spent years under deep cover has written what appears to be one of the most revealing memoirs ever put to paper by an American intelligence operative. A book so intriguing that Apple bought the television rights even before its October publication date. But the book, Life Undercover, Coming of Age in the CIA by Amiralice Fox, has been embroiled in dual controversies. Some former CIA officers have learned about its contents, are questioning its veracity, saying key details don't ring true. Some are casting doubt on the book's climactic scene. Fox is recounting of a dramatic solo meeting she held in Karachi, Pakistan, with Al-Qaeda-linked extremists. You know that everybody's Al-Qaeda-linked until they're Al-Qaeda-linked in Syria and we're working with them. And a woman running for president says that on national television and challenges the Trump administration. And it's crickets in the media. Crickets. Cricket's in the biggest name in alternative media, too, huh? Weird. Shocking. And in an extraordinary move, Fox submitted her memoir to publish Knopf Doubleday without getting approval from the CIA's Publication Review Board, in violation of the non-disclosure agreement every agency officer signs, according to 3 U.S. officials familiar with the matter. That agreement says the CIA must review anything a former officer writes about intelligence matters to ensure that she is not revealing secrets or endangering lives. And by the way, the software they're using, at least what she says they're using, and who knows, a lot of disinformation out there, to communicate with foreign agents across the spectrum is a thing called CovCom. Okay? So that I had not heard of CovCom before, so it's interesting if it rings true. The CIA says it must complete the review before the material is shared with publishers, blog subscribers, a TV audience, ghostwriters, co-authors, editors, family members, assistants, representatives, or anyone else not authorized to receive or review such classified information. Fox has given the manuscript to the agency, but has not received approval for publication. So, that's the woman Fox, not the network. That's where I was getting confused. So, again, Apple already buying the TV rights before it comes out. And the other thing I really didn't like, and I'm going to go back to this, is that she is, again, right now, being pushed as a tech entrepreneur. And Katie Couric, this is a 6-year-old interview, right? Starts talking about how she's Claire Danes from Homeland. I've never watched an episode of Homeland, but Homeland, guys, is so fictitious, is beyond the realm of parody that, no, she was not that person. It's much darker than that. Again, this person, I think, came away with some really interesting stuff, but again, she could still be working for these guys. We don't know. Yeah, she also has a daughter. Maybe marrying into the Kennedy family buys you a little bit of protection, but we all know how intelligence works. They find your weakest point and they put pressure on that. That's how they get you to do things. Let's see. An excerpt of the book has appeared in Vogue magazine, and a review copy has circulated widely, including to NBC News. It contains the sort of details the CIA has censored from previous memoirs. And here's the details about, this is the art thing, right? For example, Fox writes about posing as an international art dealer while living in Shanghai and seeking to infiltrate nuclear weapons procurement networks in Europe and the Middle East. She offers details about how the CIA uses secretive software, CovCom, for covert communications to message sources in foreign countries. She describes disguises, surveillance avoidance techniques, and how the CIA obtained false identifications from motor vehicle and passport agencies. So that's really interesting because, a lot of people want to tie the Epstein passport to Israeli intelligence, and that's absolutely possible because it did come from Austria. However, right there you have the Central Intelligence Agency also procuring fake passports in the early 2000s. So you're kind of rolling the dice, don't get me wrong. I think Whitney Webb's research is amazing, and we're going to have to book her on her latest 2 articles because we haven't had her since the final piece in the Epstein and then her offshoot piece, and they're both incredibly in-depth, so we're definitely going to have her on again. Let's see. The details are particularly sensitive because Fox says she operated under non-official cover. Here it is, the knock thing, meaning she posed as a private citizen, not a diplomat. So-called knocks put themselves at greater risk because they lack diplomatic immunity and can be arrested and jailed if caught spying. The CIA doesn't discuss how it uses knocks, nor does the agency typically allow officers to name countries in which they operated, other than war zones. Fox, who is now married to the grandson of Robert F. Kennedy, acknowledged to NBC News that the advance copy did not have final approval from the CIA, but she said she submitted a manuscript more than a year ago, and the agency has so far requested only minor changes that she has agreed to. So again, I'm going to say it, they have disinfo in this. It says it later on, okay? Period. They know where to find me. They have had a copy for over a year, and they have never identified a single sentence or section they want to redact. She said in a telephone interview that she changed certain facts to protect national security, including names, places, and operational details. Disinformation. That's there. And now this is her outcry, and I don't know whether to believe it, you got to go check her own, do your own research. Go check out some of those videos. But again, she's being pushed as this tech entrepreneur, as the real life homeland lady. My aim was really to capture the kind of capital T truth, the emotional truth of going through the transformation. Speaking of her emotional journeys as she came to empathize with some of the people the CIA was hurting and killing. And that is something you can do and still maintain accuracy, but not only changing names and places, but by having compelling characters and situations I met along the way without identifying them directly. Okay? So again, she talks about this 2002 to 2010, right? You see that right there. Working with Pakistan the entire time she was in that region. That's how the War on Terror worked. Remember, they helped fund it. And we helped, kind of erect that ISI after the conflict or during the conflict with the Russians, with the Mujahideen, with that bin Laden network we were working with on the border. Okay? Pakistani intelligence was huge in that network. Huge. So I get that part with the empathizing, and I think that's good, but, again, there's a lot in here that may not ring true, may, be propaganda. So, again, you want to check her stuff out. Go decide for yourself whether or not this is garbage or this is going to be a good read. Again, you get a lot of information out of there anyway. The way they are using software, the way they are surveilling people, the way they are using torture. So I thought it was pretty interesting. Hopefully you did too. Guys, I'm doing all sorts of videos a week. I did take yesterday off. I know some of you are upset, but I was just so beat up after being 8 hours on the road, over at the concert, etc., that I thought I'd take my first day in a couple weeks. That being said, guys, I'm a documentary filmmaker. Loose Change Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, both 9/11 films in the run-up to that anniversary. They are for free on my channel. Please check them out, along with Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture. Very easy to find. Oh, I didn't want to go here to my analytics. Oh, I guess it doesn't matter. We'll just go to there. Sorry, guys. Let's see. We want to go to my channel. We're doing it live. And if you go over to the playlist section, by the way, that's where you can find everything right here. The Dark Overlord, or not the Dark Overlord, the documentaries one. Although if you want to watch my 9/11 work on the Dark Overlord, which a lot of people have not seen, you should go check that out. And we got all sorts of stuff, including MMA stuff. I know you guys may not like it, but I love it. And I'm actually going to be doing a Khabib video a little bit later today, so get ready for that one. And with your support, that's how I'm doing this by myself here all day, all night, all hours about all sorts of issues from Epstein to NXIVM. And by the way, today was supposed to be some sentencing for NXIVM members. I think Keith Raniere, one of the Salzmans, and Allison Mack all got it postponed indefinitely, but that's not everybody. So there's going to be a NXIVM update more than likely today as well. So get ready for the Khabib video, the NXIVM update, a walk and talk with my dog because Karma's all over me. That's probably coming up next. And much more. If you're new to the Burmist Brigade, thumbs this video up, share it on social media, and please subscribe while ringing that bell and getting the notifications. Guys, I'll see you on the flip. Thank you so much.